recording. That's very loud. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen and we can get started. Cool. Great. Yeah. So basically, I just want to talk about how to build strategic online communities because I've been in this space for maybe around 4 years or so. So my background, I was working in like business development for booking.com when I realized like this job was not for me. And I kind of stumbled my way into working for community operations and social support for Google hardware. So that was kind of like my toe in the water in working for like what would be considered a really like growing and thriving community. So for those who don't know, every year what Google does is they have like this like MVP program where like folks who give a lot of feedback, they give a lot of feedback, or they help triage certain questions, or they help the community answer questions. Every year they're flown to campus at Mountain View where they get to like play with the new products. They get to talk to product managers. They get to build relationships with people at Google. And I think the Google hardware community is a really good example of like a thriving online community. So in my role, I did a lot of like community support through social media. We planned events for when folks were coming to Mountain View. And yeah, it was a really great experience. And I think there's not a lot of like industry knowledge about what it's like building a community. And then now I'm working at Stripe, kind of building the infrastructure for Stripe developers, as well as like the startups and SMBs and content creators. So just want to give some background around like what I've done within the community, if that's helpful. Okay, so we are going to do an icebreaker. So just so that everyone can kind of get to know each other and put a name to the face, we're just going to do a quick icebreaker. So I want everyone to kind of just recall a moment where someone has made you feel like very welcomed or helped you feel comfortable when you were kind of feeling awkward, or like you're just like, I don't really know where to go. So I'm going to give everyone kind of like 10 seconds to think about that. I will go last. But I think, yeah, so basically the icebreaker, think of a time where someone made you feel really good, very welcomed, and perhaps you weren't the most comfortable at that moment. If anyone wants to go first, does anyone want to go first?
I can go.
Okay.
So I remember it was last year when the pandemic first started and everything went online. And one of my friends invited me to this virtual coffee house where it's like a virtual talent show where friends perform for friends. Mm-hmm. And she invited me to perform there. And it was nerve-wracking because there were like about 60 to 80 people joining for the first coffee house. And I was like, holy crap, I don't know anyone here. But she's like, don't worry, it's a very friendly audience. You know, we don't judge, and you can feel free to, you know, treat it as one of your open mic. And you're one of the few comedian friends. You can feel free to invite your friends here as well. Yeah. So she made me feel really, really comfortable, and, you know, to not put so much pressure on myself, and, you know, really coming with the intention of making friends and also like potentially getting some feedback on my comedy material. And I would say that was actually one of the potentially life-changing events, because I met a lot of great people from there. I made some incredible friends and otherwise would not have imagined myself meeting. And so I'm really grateful for that, you know, for the really open-minded host who, you know, allowed me as a stranger to, you know, share my comedy set there.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think that's a really good example too of like, you know, she has potential to be a good community manager as well, because that's basically what their job is, like welcoming people. Do you want to tap on someone to, you can choose someone.
Yep. I can tag Danica.
So I don't know if I have a really good example, like a specific example, but maybe back when I lived in Boston, when I would go out, I was really shy. I had trouble like meeting new people. So sometimes my roommate would like just be like, hi, this is Danica. She likes rock climbing, blah, blah, blah. And she would like talk about me a little bit and then like run away. And I'm like, hi guys. And so I feel like that was like a good way for me to like meet new people that I would have been otherwise too shy to talk to.
Love that. Okay. Feel free to tag someone. Yeah.
How about Tara?
Sarah, yeah. So I got a couple similar experiences. So I've been at one event that was for like people interested in like figuring out what they want to do with their career, and also learning the tool Miro, like for the process of doing some exercises. And then another one was at our women's network at work. And there were a couple others too. A common thread between all of them was when people asked questions. Oh yeah, the other one, there's this leadership program I'm doing called Bespoke, which is like, yeah, I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but it's for Asians who like want to improve their leadership and communication skills. And it also like mentions Asian culture and, you know, how that can impact our communication style and stuff, and like how to interact with different kinds of people. But yeah, like the common theme was that they asked questions about like things we're struggling with, you know, things we're nervous about, etc. And that really like got people to open up. And I ended up connecting with a lot of people from those events on LinkedIn after, or like other things, you know, like sharing music, just kind of, you form deeper connections than when it's just like, so what's something that's going well?
Yeah, gotcha. And sorry, you mentioned it was called Bespoke, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's bespokellc.com. Here, I can drop the link.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, meanwhile, I can tag Anne.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I really can't think of one at the moment, but one that comes to mind would be, I think, the first time that I joined a volunteer program. It was like at a Buddhist organization. And I think that was like back at the time when I was in college, and it had a deep impression on me because I think growing up, I was like being teased at school, and it was hard for me to fit in. And when I met these people at the volunteering center, it was just like, I feel like I was being accepted for who I am. And they were, you know, like judgmental. And I feel like I can be myself. And so, yeah, and the people there were really friendly, and, you know, we got to like just get to know each other and share like our experiences and our life experiences. So that was something that I think till this day, this is like a long time ago, but till this day, I still remember these people. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think those are good qualities of like what a healthy community looks like too, where like people feel safe and it's like a good space to be in. Yeah. Feel free to tag someone. Yeah.
Who is left? How about Lyanna?
Hello. I thought about how in the past year I've joined some like virtual mindfulness communities to help me get through the pandemic. And I guess also when I'm in person, if I'm joining a new group of people, I tend to be a little bit anxious. And sometimes there are people who resonate that anxiety and they feel like you're anxious, so they also get anxious themselves. But then there are other people who stay calm throughout that entire experience. And because they're staying calm, it kind of helps calm me down too. So I guess that's something that helps me feel more welcome in a community if people don't resonate the anxiety that I might be putting out. And I will tag Sarah.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. This is my first time actually joining this virtual networking. Hi, Emily. Okay, so yeah, I think I can recall one moment that was in 2015. Back then, I joined a networking event hosted by Chamber of Commerce. It was a Canadian Chamber of Commerce in Indonesia. I live in Jakarta, by the way, in Indonesia. And then, yeah, you know, I was like new in my career. I worked in a media back then. Now Jakarta, it's like a media that the niche is for expatriates that lives in Jakarta and then cater what they need, something like that. And then I was that my boss asked me to attend the event, and then I was like, oh my god, what should I do with this? I mean, it full with it was like a lot of professional people here. They are like suit and tie, you know, and then very XX, those kind of people. I feel like I'm too young. I might nothing between them. So yeah, maybe I look really awkward at that time. And then there is one lady, she came and then approached me and then, hey, is this your first time? So yeah, at the time, oh my God, it's really obvious that I'm actually a stranger here. But that lady came to me and then she asked me to if I want to tag along with her, and then she showed me how to do it, basically, like how to, you know, exchange business card and then share what we do and listen to what they do, something like that. So I think, yeah, I copy a lot from her. And then, so I think in community, we can try copy and improve. I mean, see how people do it and then make ourselves comfortable. Like it doesn't go right away, but yeah, just slow, take it slow and then copy and then just improve. And then I think that was only my first night that I feel awkward and you know, not knowing what to do. And then the next time I came to chamber networking, like not just Canadian but other chamber of commerce events, I think I feel okay. And then you know, I know how to do it. So yeah, that is what I can share today.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think it's really empowering when you have someone who kind of helps you
Right.
learn the ropes and navigate. Yeah. I think we have one last person, Lyanna Kreis. But then I also don't see the, oh yeah. If you want to introduce
Hi.
yourself. Hi.
Sorry, I don't have a camera on my computer, so I'm not able to turn anything on, but nice to meet you all. It's also my first event. I'm the other Lyanna. I think one of the things that really stuck to me that I can remember the most is back in college. I started a new hobby and I tried learning how to dance. And one of my friends invited me to come and give it a try. So they got other friends together too. And one of the things that really made us grow our bond, even though we all came from different places, was every time we would get together, they would always make sure to say like, oh, Lyanna's here, like for our meetings and stuff. And so I thought that was really nice, especially because I feel like everyone's a little bit shy. So that kind of makes me, I agree so much. It makes me feel so much better knowing that everyone kind of feels the same way with different things.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the acknowledgement makes you feel seen and like validated, especially when you're new to a group. So definitely agree with you on that. Okay, so for me, I would say I used to have a manager who was just really good at connecting different types of people together. And I think I kind of replicated that from him. So it's like you get to know many people and then you identify who and who could get along with well, or like perhaps common interests. And so I think by doing that, you're helping like facilitate these like budding new friendships that may or may not have happened if it wasn't with your facilitation. So I loved that idea. I love people kind of meeting for the first time. And I hope that, you know, all of you soon find, you know, or probably already have found good friendships in this group and continue to kind of learn and share things with each other. So cool. Okay, great. So now we all know each other and that was a great icebreaker. I'm gonna go ahead and go back to sharing my slides and then we can get started. So let me just use that again. Great. Okay. So basically what I wanted to touch upon were these few points. So I think I want to go very high level at the moment, just because I think there's a lot to learn about online communities. The space is relatively new at the moment. But I would say generally, these are the 5 bullet points that I do want to discuss about. So basically, what is an online community? What does it entail? And like, how is it evolving? What platform should I use? So basically, like, where should I keep all of these people, especially if it's a digital community? Like, how do I create comms with them? How do I reach out to them? How do I facilitate conversations? And then how do I find people to join? Because it's online, like there are so many different, I guess, marketing channels to kind of funnel people into this group. How do I nurture it, make sure that it's a healthy living ecosystem for people to thrive in? And then lastly, like, how can this help my business strategically? So I think communities nowadays are being, like, you'll see a lot of large corporations or like even tech companies start to build out their community arm, just because communities have been proven to like help businesses strategically. And I can explain more later. I have this slide deck that we can go over. Okay, so sorry, I'm just gonna minimize this really fast. So yeah, basically, what is a community, right? I think perhaps it's because of the acceleration of, I mean, maybe because digital media, people are connected to their phones, or they're in social, like just more on their phones often, or because of COVID, communities are kind of popping up here and there, even more so because people are lonely. And I think this is mostly due to people wanting to feel like they belong somewhere, or perhaps find people that they can connect with and kind of grow with. So it's interesting because you'll start to see a bunch of communities focus around certain hobbies, and certain interest groups. And I think like communities exist everywhere. And I think from the beginning of the age, like religion was a good example of a thriving community, especially like church, because when you go to church, you have every Sunday, you know that you're going to go consistently, you know that you'll see the same people on Sundays, or you have Bible studies on maybe Thursday and Fridays, and then that community will break out into smaller micro communities. So I think church is a good example of like a very powerful community. But nowadays the trends are showing that we're moving towards like these online communities such as ours for Asian female nomads, or like maybe people who like cats or who like knitting, things like that. Okay, so one thing that I will use as an example is just Asian female nomads. So when Ivy and I were growing our community, we really had to think about like who were the people that we were going to target and who are we going to bring into this space. So we are only at like 450 members at the moment, but we purposely want it to grow a little bit more slower, just so that we can help facilitate stronger relationships and ensure the quality of the people coming in and the conversations we're having are at a higher standard. Because I think if you've noticed, there are some community groups where it's just like advertisements or people kind of like pinging about like random things that aren't even relevant to the group. So that was important for us to know. So yeah, Ivy and I thought about like, who do we care about? And like, who do I share an interest, hobby, or I guess place with? And like, who do I want to help? So we came up with 3 different, I guess, qualifications, which is basically like you're Asian, you're female, or you're a nomad. So you can at least pick 2 out of the 3. And we came up with this because we wanted something to link back to our, I guess, like our cultural background. We wanted to kind of empower women, and also I think nomad is broad enough to show that like, you like traveling, or you're kind of moving around, perhaps you have a home base, or you actually are a digital nomad in a different country. So that was a very interesting discussion that we had when we were trying to figure out who are the type of people we want to bring into this space. And ideally, it was just finding people like us who share the same interests and passions and could contribute to a group like ours. Yeah. So this was just a interesting like slide or image I found online that kind of shows the different types of community platforms there are out there. It doesn't detail every single one. Like you'll see that Facebook isn't on here, but I think this is just a good representation of the types of communities that you can find, specifically for, I guess, like companies or like small businesses. I think for general communities and groups, that's mostly where perhaps like people like Ivy and I are considering growing our group. It's just more, I guess, user friendly. And I guess, let's see, for like creative, like you see Twitch is there, SoundCloud. So I guess it depends on like your industry and what you want from your community itself. But yeah, this is just a very interesting like representation of like all the platforms that are available to grow communities. And I think moving forward, you'll only start to see the space grow because the infrastructure is needed, but there's still a lot of things to be built out. Yeah, so you can also consider like, where do my potential members live and like what platform is probably like the most easiest to grow my type of community. We chose Facebook because initially we thought like it would be really hard to funnel like 400 people into a Slack group because it means downloading the app, kind of understanding how to use Slack if you've never used Slack before, and then checking it routinely. And so we just came up with the idea of just using Facebook because everyone kind of has a Facebook and they already check it to keep in touch with like their friends. And I think for us, because Asian Female Nomads is more of like a social community, and we wanted people to stay connected, that was going to be like our home base. And I think eventually we will kind of grow out more on like Instagram as a means of like advertisement or like marketing to bring people into the community. Even TikTok. I'm like, we're both new to TikTok, but we're considering using TikTok as another channel. And then eventually doing like in-person meetups when we can, and perhaps growing different leaders. So you'll kind of see us test different platforms to use, but at the moment we're still on just Facebook, LinkedIn, or Facebook, Instagram, and probably considering maybe like growing our own community platform on a website, but those are later plans. Yeah, so I also just want to reiterate too, like if you're interested in building a community, it can really just be about anything. So I chose a few examples from Singapore. There is a community in Singapore where they take care of the community cats. So if you see the number, there's 20,000 plus members who kind of coordinate and have like debates and discussions about, what time to feed cats, where the cats are, how to tag the cats, how to neuter and spay the cats. Like it's a very robust growing community. And I think that's a really good example of, you can build an interest about, one specific topic. Another platform for those who don't know, meetup.com is a great way to kind of meet people around a specific like hobby or topic in a region. So I had joined like the millennials young adult meetup in Singapore, and I met a few interesting people there. And then Asian Hustle Network, which was a community that started probably just like a couple of years ago, but they exploded in growth, and they have really like heavy hitters such as like Simu Liu. You have like some of like the OG YouTubers in this community as well, who are quite vocal and just show a lot of like representation in the Facebook group. So I think that has been like a prime example of like a really great community that's grown from scratch. And a lot of their topics are more focused around like representation, entrepreneurship, kind of bringing the stories to the front to talk about the hustle of Asians. Okay. So I guess this is also a really good question about like, how do you find people to join your community and to add value? Sorry, this is a little bit general, but these are kind of just like my own learnings from when we were building out Asian Female Nomads. So generally, like if you're building a community, most likely your first like 50 to 100 people will be your friends or your friends of friends. And that's kind of what we've been seeing. Like Ivy and I, we do have mutual friends in San Francisco, and then her in Canada, and then me in Singapore. So a lot of the people in our group right now are definitely kind of like just our friends. But because of this kind of growing, group and like connectivity, our friends of friends have been inviting their own friends. And so it's just like this like interesting ripple effect when you have a community that is resourceful, there's like quality content in it, and it's all like word of mouth or like referral. So it's interesting. We've been starting to see things pick up, and like people that Ivy and I don't know kind of joining our group, and it's been really great. So I highly encourage you to invite your friends if possible. The other thing that we've been doing as well is really just driving like social media and written content. That's something that we're aiming to do more and more. There are a lot of interesting stories that we've found in our community, and we want to bring them to the front. Like if you follow our Instagram, we've been doing less focus on like these Instagram travelers or influencers, and we're focusing more on stories around our own people. And I think that's incredibly important because there's a sense of like relatability when you hear about someone's story and you're like, you know, that's inspiring and that adds value to my life. And that information is something I can use and replicate to my own like journey. So we're going to start doing that more. The other thing too is like cross posting on various platforms. So we've been posting on like Asian Hustle Network, their communities, Asian Boss Girl, trying to find like a certain type of demographic and I guess community member that we want to target. So we have been looking into ways to partner with different community groups or platforms and hopefully kind of funneling more people in here. And then also just like sourcing speakers and friends and those who can add value. I think when you have like an industry expert or someone who is quite well known, or you want to know how like this person did it and they speak at your community group, I think you'll start to find like a fresh new wave of people come in. And I think that helps add a lot of value. Cool. And then the question around is like, how do I grow and nurture my community? So I think I really have to reiterate, it's just like consistency is key. I think your community members should always know like there is going to be 1 or 2 events planned every month. You do know that if like if I post something in this group, like there will be someone to kind of help me or answer my questions. And so what Ivy and I did when we were thinking of growing this community was ensuring that like every single post that comes into our group, we want to be able to respond to it and kind of welcome this member in. So that's something that we kind of want to continue fostering, but ensuring that every single person in our group that comes in will have a touch point and some sort of like interaction online. And then for us, it's also like having our ears on the ground. So for me, I have a lot of like these one-off or like side conversations with people, trying to understand what they're looking for in this community, what kind of, I guess, like value, what type of workshops or events they can host for our community. But it's really like, as a community manager, you're kind of also just observing and watching and seeing what's going on. And yes, ideally, it's like finding reasons to bring people back into this space. So we host events because we want people to have the opportunity to like meet each other and create friendships this way. So always creating an icebreaker in the beginning so that you put a name to the face and we get to know about each other a little bit more and more. And then I think ideally we will want to do meetups in different cities. And eventually we're thinking of perhaps looking into like women retreats next year. But again, that's long-term thinking. So it's really just thinking of like, what is the best way I can provide value to my community? And like, how do I connect people? And I think what people do wrong is they're always selling to their communities. They're always trying to like advertise to their communities. They're trying to be like, oh, you should do this. Or like, they're very like prescriptive. But I think in a community itself, you don't want to do that at all, because that's not the point of it. I think community is really to just like learn, foster relationships, and connect with each other. And there's a tactful way of doing like, I guess, marketing, but that's more of like a longer story. Yeah. Okay, and then these are just questions that are good to know as well, just to ask yourself. Like, I think the Reddit makeup community is probably one of like the worst like fails that I've seen, because what happened was like they're one of the biggest communities on Reddit, and there was like some sort of incident where one of the community managers just didn't want to do it anymore. And she was like managing like a group of like a couple 100,000 like makeup like hobbyists on Reddit. And she just closed it down, right? Because she just couldn't, she didn't have the bandwidth, or there was like some drama going on. So that is probably like one of the worst things that someone could do, is just completely shut down something without telling people. But I think we can attribute that because she just didn't know how to, I guess, regulate the space and build infrastructure and have support. So I think that is something we never want to see happening to communities. I think there has to be transparency and communication. So when thinking of building your own community, it's like really thinking of like, okay, as my community expands, how am I going to grow it? How am I going to regulate it? Like, what type of guidelines will I put in? If there's a bad actor, how do I kick this bad actor out? And really just like, how do you ensure that this home is like, it's comfortable and it's clean? The other thing too is like, how do you prompt conversations for strangers to speak up? It is daunting going into like this online community and everyone's just kind of knows what they're doing already, but that's why we always have those like weekly, like introduce new members, introduce yourselves, right? Or if there's someone asking a question and I know someone who might have a really good answer to it, then I just tag them, and that's like prompting them to kind of share their knowledge. So we've been kind of planting these seeds in our community to create and nurture conversation. And then lastly, yeah, what structure will focus the conversations? I think that's something we're still trying to do at this moment, but I think in that sense, it's more of like what our members can bring to our community and what type of topics they want to speak on. And that helps facilitate the type of events that we have and conversations that are going on. Yeah. This is just a screenshot that I found online. I felt like it gives a good idea of how businesses are using communities. So you can really see that it touches upon like everything. I would say community managers are kind of like the jack of all trades. We're really like generalists or like multi-potentialites because we talk to everyone, we help everyone, and we're always like doing 100 things at once. And so it's kind of vague of like what we actually do. But I think this will kind of show like how community managers can help unlock like value. So definitely like some companies or some businesses use communities as like customer support. And I think they use communities as like a central focal area of like education or like learnings. And so that's like you build a program around people who are like your advocates, but they don't necessarily work for the company, but they are helping answer questions on your behalf. So they're acting like customer support, if that makes sense. Yeah, because rather than having to pay like a bunch of like vendors for customer support, what if you just nurtured a very healthy group instead? And you know, these are people that you occasionally give swag to, you foster real relationships with, and they go off and help answer questions on your behalf like that. I think a good example of that would also just be around, I guess, yeah, I would say like Google hardware. I keep referring back to them, but they did really have a great like MVP program, and they would help answer questions around like the hardware products when it came to technical issues. And yeah, you don't spend a lot of money on customer support when you already have like a community to do that for you. Also like product development, like when you have people who love your product, they want it to be better, and they'll give like that honest feedback that most people don't have. They have the outsider's perspective view because they're not, you know, they're not working at the actual company. And actually, I think it was, so I'm at Stripe right now, and one of the ideas that we had for, I believe it was tax, like Stripe created a product about tax because someone had tweeted to the CEO about like, hey, like it's really annoying to calculate tax when I have like international customers all over the world. Can you make this into a product? And because of that one tweet, they built an entire product around tax. And now it is a product in our technical stack. So it's really interesting. Sales and marketing too, I think this has been like phenomenal for some companies, because when you have evangelists going out and talking about your product and just being authentic, it's not like an ad. Maybe it's like you hear it from your friend instead. I think there's more power to it, right? Because like when you see an ad, you're like, okay, there's motive behind it. Like I don't like really believe in this ad, whatever. But when you hear it from your friend who's like, wow, this product's great, or wow, this community is great, like you should join, you're more likely to kind of lean towards that. So people, I mean, businesses are really kind of growing more of these like evangelists to go out and do and spread like the good gospel of the word. Oh, more people. And then in terms of like customer success as well, yeah, I do think that there are ways that you can like retain customers through communities, because once you become a customer of a business, then it's like, okay, you can join a community and you find people who are just similar like as you. I'm trying to figure out a good example, but I don't want to keep using like tech companies for like customer success or for like business value cases. But I will say that like the community, it exists to help people self-serve, to connect, and to also just find the right resources. So I think in terms of like customer success, like after some, like maybe a customer onboards, they most likely will have like an account executive or a manager or some sort of contact. But when they join a community, it's like, oh, you have perhaps like 100, like all these other people that I can ask questions to, or like I have all these other people who have gone through the same thing that I have, and they understand where the resources are. So yeah, I just wanted to give like an overview of like how community kind of touches all parts of the business. And then this is part of like a book I'm reading. It's just something that's a little bit vague, but it's helpful. It's like basically like, how do you keep track of your community? It's like a graph to show like where to go. So for us, like in terms of metrics, we are trying to keep track of our community, but it is hard because Facebook doesn't have great analytics. But we do keep track of like, you know, how many people are showing up, identifying I guess like the community type of person that we want in our group. Rolodex is like the really old, it's on a swivel and you like write people's names on it, but basically it's like a CRM. So we do have a CRM where we have people's emails and their names, and we're just keeping track of like everyone who's in our community. But yeah, I think this is basically just a good graph to let you know. And then also like why people are showing up, and then if so, ask, and yes, keep it up. Yeah. And I really like this quote. So it's basically like, the dream of a peaceful society to me is still the dream of the potluck supper, a society in which all can contribute and all can find friendship. I think this is a great quote to kind of show the kind of community that we want to build with Asian female nomads. So if, as you know, like the potluck supper, everyone is contributing something, bringing a dish to the table, and you know, everyone has a good meal and discusses. So I feel like this was a really powerful quote, and what it means for me to kind of build a community. And then lastly, I just want to talk about like resources that I would recommend. So if you're interested in community management or community building, I would recommend a few of these resources. So Get Together is a book that is written by the founder of like Creative Mornings. For those who don't know, Creative Mornings is, I believe, these events that are held in the mornings. They have like guest speakers, they have breakfast together, and it's very like intimate, I believe. And sometimes there's like workshops. So the creator of that wrote a book called Get Together, and Get Together is just really well written about like how to grow community authentically. It's a good like first step into community kind of handbook. The other resources I would recommend are CMX by Bevy. So CMX is really great. It's basically a community for community managers, but I've seen a lot of like product managers marketing managers, people who are kind of around the sphere, they also join this group as well. It's very robust and very well known in Silicon Valley. The other thing too is like Facebook. If you're interested in joining their like Facebook community certification, you can also learn how to build your own Facebook communities online. They have an entire like school for it, and they even have like funding for those who create really robust communities. And yeah, they'll actually invest in you if you have a pretty good community. So like subtle Asian traits went through their program, and I do believe they were able to get some funding as well. And then lastly, Community Club, which is again a community for community managers, but anyone can join. And it's quite new, but I think there's just a lot of great resources in there that you can look into and have discussions. And yeah, lastly, this is me. So you can email me at efangly@gmail.com. That's just more of like my other email that I will check from time to time, or you can follow me on Instagram. Okay, I see we have questions. Sorry, totally. Oh no, they're not questions. But yes, I'm really excited about the women retreats as well. Yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much it. And does anyone have any questions about community management? I kind of feel like I was rambling a bit, but I do think that the power of community is only going to get stronger and stronger. And I have seen so many companies start to invest in communities, specifically within tech. Yeah. Cool. So any questions? Anyone wanting to build a community of their own?
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
So yeah, I tried to build a community back then, like Indonesian community, and then where they share where they come from, because Indonesia is very diverse, like so many islands and then so many diversity. So yeah, I want to highlight that despite the difference, that we can have the same common good things about Indonesia, something like that. And then but I want to share a story about something that a little bit contra for some people. And then yeah, I got negative attacks, like in the comment section and stuff. And then that made me really feel down, because that was my first time trying to build something, and then I didn't prepare myself to have negativity from outsiders. So yeah, I think I paused until right now, but now I'm trying to build it again. And then I start to gather my strength again to start again. But yeah, I want to ask, like, if you have the experience, or maybe you have some insight, like how do you cope with negativity? Or negativity means people that trying to be too negative to your campaign or to your your campaign.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I feel like it's something we deal with on the daily as well, like for community managers. Like not in Asian female nomads at all, but I think when it comes to like support for a company, we deal with like angry customers or angry users, or people who just like will shit on you for no reason, and they're just like, I hate you. So there's a lot of toxic things happening online, but I think it's also like just taking a step back and understanding like that's a them problem, not a me problem. Like for me, I'm just like my job is to ensure that I'm keeping this place like thriving or clean. And so there are certain tactful ways where you can manage like the negative things. So like there are sometimes you could also like delete comments, like if it's like within your guidelines, like you'll have to create guidelines for yourself of like what is acceptable and what is not. But if it's a toxic, it's like violent, then you could most likely just delete it or get rid of it. But really quickly, like, are you building a community in Facebook, like a Facebook group, or like, where is this? Facebook. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. I think it's also, I think there's also ways to kind of filter people. Like, I'm not really sure to what extent, like what type of people you're looking for to kind of bring into the group. But like for us, we definitely put like questions in the beginning for our group and say like, what can you contribute? Like, what value do you want from this group, etc. So you kind of put up like a barrier to entry, And like some people, they're just like, okay, I don't want to do this, so I won't join. But if you actually fill out the questions, this person is more likely like more interested in actually contributing rather than just joining a group for fun. Yeah. So it's also just like helping you ensure quality of people. Yeah. And perhaps like maybe you can niche it down more as well. Like maybe you could do like a certain like group or like demographic or yeah, but it's mostly like building out guidelines for yourself first and then
Sure.
building on top
Okay,
of it.
well, that answers my questions. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome.
Hi, Emily. I have a question. So you are a multi-potentialite yourself. I noticed that you've been, you are working in community building at Stripe. You have a YouTube channel and you manage AFN as a community leader. And I'm very curious, how much time do you spend on, managing AFN on top of like all the other things you already have going on in your life? And do you have any tips on, managing your kind of like your energy and your time, and, how do you juggle so many different things at the same time, the multi-potentialite?
I know. I feel like it's still something I'm like struggling with, but I think to break down my day generally, it's like I wake up at 7 and then I start work from like 8:30 all the way to 6:30 or 7. Yeah. And like I do sometimes like I get distracted. I'm like, oh, I want to like work on other things or blah, blah. But I think for Stripe, I literally just focus on Stripe solely right now because I just started this new role and I try not to like touch my phone unless it's at lunchtime. And then afterwards, then it's like I get to work on AFN from time to time. So I'll go in, answer questions or schedule posts. But yeah, I think a lot of it is like I've had to socialize less, I would say, or say no to more things. And it has been hard because like obviously I do want to go out and have fun too. But it's really just like, yeah, managing my energies. I think I was like thinking like Sundays are like dedicated to like Emily days. Like no one can bother me. Like I don't even take calls from my family sometimes because I'm like, this is my day. Like, sorry, I need to like do my own thing. And then I think it's just also not sleeping too. Like there are days where I'm like up at like 2 a.m. editing a YouTube video because I want it to go out consistently on Sunday. Yeah. So it's a work in progress, I would say. But I think for AFN though, like I do spend time on it, but I'm not like pouring hours into it. And I think the great thing about it is like Ivy does it as well, right? So like we're tag teaming together. There's 2 of us like who can do this. And I've seen in the community as well, like people are responding to other comments. There is conversations already happening on its own without us having to step in. And that's something that we want. Like that to me is like success, because I don't have to say hi to every single post or comment, even though that's what we were doing before. Yeah. So I would say probably like 1 hour, 30 minutes to an hour every day for AFN. And then for YouTube, YouTube editing can take like 3 to 4 hours per week. And then my full-time job. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. But I think it's just like not sleeping for YouTube though. Yeah. But I think right now I have a good handle on it. Like I do feel like there is balance at the moment. Yes. I don't know if I'm like persuading any of you guys. Like the looks on your faces are like, oh, she's not. Yeah, kidding. Yeah.
When you see like an opportunity, for example, like a potential opportunity, either for like your community or like the projects that you're working on, how do you evaluate it on if this is something that that you want to proceed with? Because you already have so much on your plate, but you know how like AFN is like growing, and as different people are coming in, I'm really curious to hear like how do you identify opportunities that are worth working on? Because like for every single event that we host, it takes effort to coordinate, it takes effort to market, to promote, to come up with material, content on social media. But like so far the events have been pretty amazing, and we're just wondering like how do you guys assess like what is like a good content to, like, how do you guys come up with like quality content? How do you guys kind of prioritize what to do and what not to do?
Yeah, I think a lot of the events right now that we've been getting are just more like crowdsourced, or people reach out to us and they're like, hey, I want to talk about this certain topic and I want to share it with our group. So I think there hasn't been like really I guess guidelines around like what events we'll choose and what we'll want, but I think as long as it provides value to the community, and it can be really about anything. Like I think a lot of people were interested in like property investments, like managing money, or like maybe like nutrition. So I think it's because we haven't had like an influx of people being like, I want to do an event. It's more of like, we're kind of tapping on people to be like, hey, you want to talk about this? Like, you're a specialist in this. Like, yeah. So to me, it's like, what are the strengths of our community and how do we like bring it out so that it is showcased, if that makes sense. So that's why I had reached out to you, Amy, for comedy. We did that comedy event. There was like 40 plus people who showed up. Like that was a really great event where we like kind of showcase talent from our community and people got to enjoy it. Yeah. So right now there's no like standard of like, like this topic sucks, like we're gonna scratch it. We don't have that yet because we don't even have people coming in like just giving us that many ideas. So I think for any of you guys who want to be part of an event or want to be on a panel, that would be quite interesting. We're looking at a few, like one, actually Danica, I think would be really great at too, is more of like moving overseas. Yeah, like something we'll do like a panel and then it'll be like a facilitated like fireside chat. But yeah, we're still coming up with ideas of really like how to, like, there's so many incredible women in our group and they're just kind of lingering around, and it's like, okay, how do we bring them to the front and like how do they share their voice and their stories with us? So I think that's what I'm trying to look for at this moment. But in terms of yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Can I suggest something? So like if there's any way for us to volunteer, and like if anyone want to volunteer presenting something, they can apply, or let's say like maybe like a Google form or like a type form, and put up their hands. Yes. And then we can potentially like say, so then we will have a list of topics to present about, and then we can do polls in the group to kind of decide like how to schedule, like what is the topic to kind of present first. Sorry, I'm like kind of jumping the gun.
Good. I'm writing notes right now. That's helpful. I love this. Yeah, I do like the idea of like creating like a form so that people can present their ideas. I was gonna do a form for people who wanted to be featured on our Instagram. Or like wanted to create a TikTok video for us. Like, yeah. But I think we'll do both. We'll do both. There will be opportunity to like, to add both. So I like that idea. Yeah. Any other good ideas or questions?
I got a question.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if, Emily, if you or if anyone else has any tips for reviving a community after it's died. Like, for example, there was a community that started from a conversation. There were actually a couple of these that I was in, like one was for women technologists and engineers who like wanted to figure themselves out more, like self-discovery. That came out of a conversation on the Society of Women Engineers Facebook group. And then there was another group of musicians who just, that like came out of another, so like, I don't know if you guys have met Lena. She like joined AFN pretty recently, but yeah, she had another group and then this was like an offshoot of that. So those kind of died out. There was another group that came out of a chat that survived, like a techies group out of Lena's group. But yeah, it's kind of like, you know, some of them last, some die out, but I'm wondering if you have any tips for like reviving ones after they die.
Yeah, can I ask why they died? Or like, why do you think they died? Yeah.
Probably because, so it was we didn't get many new people, especially like new people talking a lot. Like there were a couple talkative people, and then I feel like they kind of got what they wanted from the group and then moved on, like especially for something like self-discovery. You know, that itch might have been scratched and then they moved on to something else, like you know, and I noticed that on Clubhouse too, like the app in general is dying because a lot of people were just bored during the pandemic and now stuff's opening up again, versus something identity based like Asian female nomad. Like you don't stop being an Asian female nomad usually.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I would say reviving dead communities it's definitely a struggle and it will be hard, but I think generally speaking, it's also the people managing the community. So like if Ivy and I stopped creating events or we stopped commenting, I mean, maybe the community would continue thriving on its own, but there isn't like consistency. And I think I really want to heavily articulate like consistency is super important because that is like the oil that will keep the car going and like driving. So perhaps those communities, like if you wanted to give it like a fresh face, what you could do to kind of like just give the sense of a new identity or community, you could do a little bit of like new design, like marketing, right? Like just be like, hey, like we're revitalizing this community. Like we have a new logo and these are our community managers. This is what you can expect. And then next few months to come, like, you know, every month we're gonna have an event, or these are your 2 community managers you will always have contact with. And yeah, you kind of just do this entire like new flow to it and just show the members like this is what they can expect. But I've seen a lot of communities kind of just die out because there's no one supporting it anymore. It's also like groups of friends too, right? Like there's always one person in a group of friends who plans all the events like to Tahoe or whatever, or they're always like, hey, like are we hanging out? And then everyone hangs out. So I think when you lose that person, communities die. Or like other people have to step up to the bat. So yeah, are you planning on revitalizing one, or like what are your thoughts? Yeah.
So I've been experimenting with a lot of different communities. Yeah, so like I like just started a new one yesterday.
Right.
And yeah, like want to try and get some people into that. I would be open to reviving some of the old ones, but not too attached. You know, like if I find a couple people at least to be interested, like then sure. But yeah, I'm kind of like trying a bunch of things right now, rather than like super committed to like one community, which could be another thing. But yeah, like I am a multi-potentialite, so also like I'm new to the whole community building thing. Like started during the pandemic, but I'm loving it. Yeah, and another thing is like sometimes when people stop posting a lot, especially if I form it with a few people, then I'm like, well, I don't want to dominate it and keep posting, but like maybe I should just to try and get people talking more.
Yeah, I think definitely it's like you're seeding like posts or conversations. So that's what we try to do. We try to post like once or twice a week. Well, Ivy's been doing way better, but it's also like accountability too, right? Like if I don't do something, like Ivy will be like, hey, like you didn't do this, or if she, you know, like we're working together as like a team to kind of build it out. So I think if it helps you, you may consider wanting to have like a co-manager or a team to help you. I think for us too, like as we begin to scale AFN, like we might bring on a few like volunteers for moderators too, right? Because like Ivy and I can't do everything. So yeah, I think you'll probably need the support as well, because in a way, like this job that you're doing, like to build this community, it's hours of my time and I'm not getting paid for it, you know, but it's like something I'm passionate about and I want to see thrive and grow. But you also have to make sure that it's sustainable. That's the thing. Yeah. It has to be sustainable. If it's not sustainable, then the community will die.
Right. Yeah. I love Lilo's question in the chat, by the way. Something I'm wondering about as well.
Oh yeah. Okay, let me read it. Do you have any tips for building a sense of community within an existing team at work? Nice. Actually, that's interesting because that's exactly what's going on my team at this moment. Okay, pre-pandemic, I felt close to my team. I joined a new team during the remote work situation, and I really feel like I'm missing social connection with my current team. Okay, so my advice would be really depending on like how you like to talk to people. So what I did was actually like I did schedule like these like one-on-one chats with members of my team, because I actually don't do well in a big group like this. Like I'm like really having to push my boundaries to like be a little bit more extroverted and like talk in a group like this. But I do best when I have like one-off conversations to grow relationships in my team. So like if I were you, perhaps you can message people and say like, hey, let's have like these one-on-one coffee chats and whatnot. And then even perhaps think about like creating a weekly social hour where it's not mandatory, because I also see that you're in engineering. So like I think engineers don't like mandatory social gatherings, but you can just provide the space for people to drop in if they wanted to. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Oh my gosh, I'm an engineer too. And yeah, like I'd like more connection with my team. I started a new job right before the pandemic. And like at my last job, I was branded as like too social and not hardcore enough of an engineer. Like people assume you can't be both. So I'm like afraid to be like that person at the new job. And it's like I feel bad even like asking questions. It's just such a like don't bother me vibe.
Yeah, I kind of get that.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, you should join my new group.
Sure.
No one has joined yet. But yeah, it's for people-oriented engineers. Or I don't know if you identify as that. But.
So when I'm hanging out with non-engineers, I'm generally the quieter one, but in my group at work right now, like I'm the social one relative to the other people.
Yeah, that's how I used to feel too. But then I felt so socially deprived in tech circles that now I have like all my extrovert energy at these kind of events. Yeah.
Tara has been suppressed too long. That's why she's very talkative.
Yeah, let's say like my whole childhood.
I mean,
yeah.
Oh,
anyway.
Well, how do you interact with your teams right now? Like your team member? Do you just have like stand-ups and then that's like what social interactions do you guys have now with your teams? Yeah.
Before we didn't even have stand-ups. We had like one weekly team meeting and that was it. And then I was kind of like working with the manager to try to build more of a team feeling. Yeah. So he introduced some stand-ups, but then they're kind of awkward because we just kind of like go around and give our updates. What I've currently evolved into is like there's one teammate who's like more social and we like have one-on-ones and work together a little bit more. But the other three people are just off doing their own projects. And it seems like my interactions with them are pretty transactional. It's only work related. Nothing really about their personal lives. So I don't know. I don't know if like, should I keep trying or maybe redirect my social energy to other things in my life if like, yeah.
That's why I started a virtual co-working thing with Tara. Like, so basically I know Tara is very isolated at her job and I get distracted when I'm isolated. But I know it varies from person to person, but I feel like for people who have trouble working alone, virtual co-working can be more effective if you just need company to help you get through the most tedious or like annoying task. I remember one day I had to log like 20 bugs and I was like ranting to Tara online as I log those bugs and I get it all done. That's the power of, like kind of having like a peer support.
That should be nice. That should be an AFN event, like virtual working. Yeah.
Yes.
Just like ranting in a chat room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Like,
appreciate that.
everyone can be like in a Zoom and then you just work together like that, and you can like hop on, hop off. Like you have a, yeah. Okay, this is good. I'm writing this down, and you guys can manage it because I'm going to be sleeping. I'm going to be sleeping.
Uh-huh.
There's already the chat Amy started.
Yeah, it's like a very informal group chat, but we can definitely try something within AFN.
I'm into it. So I have heard about other teams in my company that are more social. They have a chat room and they're just like posting in that chat room the entire day about like random shit, memes, stuff they're frustrated about, stuff they finally fixed or whatever. And my team doesn't have that. We have a group chat, but it's like totally dead. Sometimes nobody posts in it for an entire day, and that sucks. And I've also heard of other teams having just a permanent virtual room and people like hop in and hop out throughout the day if they just want to connect with someone else.
That sounds so cool, like a drop-in type of room.
Yeah.
So you just wanna, like,
What tool did you guys use for virtual room?
I don't know because my team doesn't use it, but maybe I can ask. I think like Discord could be a thing. Like there are like voice channels that people could just hop in and hop out of.
Yeah, I've had companies where the people just like maybe like two of the engineers would always pair program together. So then if you were ever wanting to talk to any of them, you just go to that room that they're always already in. So maybe you just like, you're always on Zoom, and if people want to talk to you, you're already like sitting there. Maybe that's a little awkward if you're sitting there by yourself, but.
So if you,
Good idea. And I think like Slack has this new feature called Huddle. It's similar to Discord. I haven't tried it yet, but we're thinking about testing it out. But that's a good idea, like having a room open for people to just like drop by and,
Yeah.
like a table in an office, I love that.
Yeah.
So we will, like, if you want to, like, there's no reason, I don't know, like, unless they don't allow it or something, if you want to join that chat and that room and whatever, especially like if you work closely with those teams, because like connections can be really helpful and stuff. And even if you someday want to switch, you can like find stuff they're doing that you like and tell them you like it. So is your goal here more like making friends, or do you find that not having that kind of culture with your team is like getting in the way of getting your work done?
I think I do work better if I'm around other people. It works more collaborative. So yeah.
Same. Like I just keep getting stuck when I have, especially like we have this huge complex system and they hire new people so rarely that they don't realize like how hard it is to ramp up. And then they just like my manager, so I got a bad performance review and then he told me like this happened to other people on the team. And I'm just going, so this is a pattern that basically happens to every new person. And then you just tell them to work extra hard. Like, how about
increasing knowledge sharing or something? It seems systemic.
Which like, I mean, he's trying, like he did join just like a few months before me. But yeah, like it's definitely getting better, but not fast enough for my career. So I'm applying for other jobs on the side. But I do want to develop that skill of like, fostering community, though it is hard, like when you're new, you're young, you're a woman, you're an engineer.
And now everything's remote on top of all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm looking to move towards product management now.
Or community building.
Yeah,
Actually.
I could, yeah. I still don't think I want to like I like ideating about building products. So I don't think I want to leave that world behind, but so I'm thinking like maybe community building on the side, or like if I start my own business someday, like community would be a big aspect of it. But
there's also developer advocacy as well. Developer advocacy. Yeah. So like you're an engineer, you're basically building community within engineering. So that could
Yeah.
be interesting. Okay, I just want to be cognizant of time because I know it's already like we're 15 minutes past, but can we take a group photo really fast? And those who need to drop off can drop off, and those who want to stay, we can continue chatting. So anyone, Sarah, if you want to turn on your camera, we're gonna take a group photo. Otherwise, okay, cool. Or anyone else too, Mayu, Lyanna, Chris. Okay. All right, I'm like right here. Okay, ready? I'm just gonna do it. Smiling behind my camera. Thank you. Great. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, I'll do one more. Should I do a funny one? I like 1, 2, 3. Yay. Okay, great. Thanks everyone for joining. Feel free to stick around a little bit longer. I'll keep this Zoom open for like 10 more minutes and then I'm gonna go back to sleep.
What time is it in Singapore?
It's 9:14 right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
but-
that's so
yeah.
great.
Yeah, no, but I woke up at like 7 this morning and then because we did hot pot with friends yesterday night and then got home kind of late and then I was like, I need to wake up. Yeah. So, but
What's
anyone?
hot
Oh my gosh. Okay. I wish we could do in-person events so we could do hot pot, but it's
international in-person events, like once stuff opens up more with travel, like we gotta do that.
yeah. I mean, that's the aim. Like we really want to actually plan these women retreats and maybe in the future, like it could even be like industry specific, like creators meeting up or, like engineers, like women in STEM meeting up, or just a big women's retreat gathering. And then we can break off into subgroups. So we'll see. Yeah, but that would be amazing to kind of build out for AFN. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Sure.
Yeah. But sorry, going back to the topic too. Okay, bye Sarah. They're frozen, but thank you everyone who wants to hop off. Feel free to hop off. But yeah, I think going back to your point about like, I guess creating relationships with people on your engineering team. It is going to be hard. I feel like some people just want to work, right? Like some people just want to be there for work. They don't want to have friendships at all. They're just like, this is a job. I don't need to be friends with anyone. But I do think it's important to build certain relationships with people on your team because even like they just tend to help you a little bit more. So if you can develop that relationship with them, try. Like you can ask very small questions, just like, oh, like, I know it seems daunting. Like I know you don't want to be the one being kind of like just asking all these random questions, but I think people generally like to talk about themselves. So you can ask like, oh, how was your weekend? Right? Like, what are you working on any cool projects? Are you working on any cool coding projects? Like just kind of find ways to like figure little things about them and then mention it to them, but you don't have to be best friends with them. Yeah, but you should, I think it's really just like a very small step of just trying. Yeah, because I think we tend to just be like, I don't want to say anything, I don't want to do anything, and you kind of just like hold back. But what if they're thinking the same thing too? You never know, right? Like, what if they're just like, I don't know how to interact with anyone, so I'm just not going to interact with anyone. And everyone's thinking the same thing.
Yeah, and it's hard when they are pretending to be okay. So it's like a lot of times it's like, how are you? And when you genuinely care about how they're feeling, they wouldn't tell you like, oh, I feel terrible. They will be like, good, great, just to be polite. And the conversation just like die there, like, you know what I mean? Even when I sometimes it's like when I see people are like kind of stressed or like people are like kind of they don't sound like they're feeling well at work. I'll be like, are you feeling okay? Do you need rest or whatever? No, I'm fine, doing fine.
Yeah, it's like I tried because my manager is like more about knowledge sharing and like collaboration than the rest of my team. So I try to ask, like telling him like it must have been crazy for you, like with the pandemic happening like a few months after you joined this team. And then he was like, yeah, at least I had a few months, like, like I had it better than you. That's like all he said. like I would have offered to like help him or, you know, like be someone for him to talk to, since he's the only person who's somewhat like stalking. But yeah, it's like, it's hard. And then like if I bring up any challenges, like they see it as complaining rather than starting a conversation.
Yeah, it is very hard when the other people are in the mentality of not opening up. Like it's like they feel like opening up will create unnecessary like complexity or like, you know, drama or
drama,
like,
yeah.
yeah, like drama, or like potentially like they would think it's unprofessional. They would think you know, like people with all kinds of these mentality, making it very difficult to create that kind of connections outside of work, right? I remember what helped me personally was I just be myself. Like literally, there was one day I was really burned out and I cried during a one-on-one with my manager. I literally just cried.
I've done that.
I've done that too.
I literally just cried. I was like, I felt so bad. I felt so bad. I screwed this shit up. I didn't swear, but I said I felt so bad. I made this mistake. I felt like, you know, really, you know, I'm really sorry. And he was like, he's really understanding. And he said, I understand it's a very busy, overwhelming time, and especially given the pandemic. And he opened up a little bit to me. He said he's very burned out himself, and he's planning to take like at least a day off next week. So that was a little bit helpful. So it's like by me opening up myself, being kind of like a mess in front of him. It's a risky move though, because it could, depending on how empathetic your team or your manager is, they might perceive you as like dramatic, emotional.
Yeah. Like, you're overreacting.
You're overreacting.
You're overreacting. In that tone of voice. Like, really? I'm talking like this, and you're talking like this. Who's overreacting here? Yeah.
So it's like you don't want to be perceived as the drama queen or like the whiny baby on the team, but in the meantime, you also want to allow yourself to be human once in a while.
I'm actually debating. So Wednesday, I'm going to be going to the office in person for the first time in over a year. I'm debating whether to like wear like dark eyeshadow under my eyes to like I have like dark circles, and just like wear like all black. Just try to signal that I'm like stressed out. But I doubt anything would happen.
Don't exaggerate it. I mean, just show up as you are. Like, don't I wouldn't.
I look like I'm happy when I have no will to live.
Same. It's called high functioning depressed.
I know. For me, like when I cried in front of my manager, I remember being like, it was funny because he's like this older, middle-aged, like white guy who did not know how to react. I think he was shocked. He was like, oh, what should I do? What should I do? And he like slid the box of tissues to me, and he was like, and then after I stopped, I was just like, you know, I just explained, I was like, I'm like really overwhelmed, like I'm stressed, like I don't cry at all. Like this is my first time crying in front of anyone. So like, I'm really upset, blah, blah, blah. And I think the way that he handled it was like, indicated to me that like, oh, I should stay at this company because he is empathetic and understanding to my situation. And I feel like I would not want to work for a manager who doesn't understand that, because we are human, right? Like if he made me feel stupid and small and insignificant just because I showed human emotion, I don't think that's a company I would want to work for long term. Yeah. Because you're working with this person like 40 plus hours every week. So I think the way that he handled my crying, like he was really awkward about it, but he was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We can work together and solve. Yeah. But it's just something to keep in the back of your mind, because I think we all just found out that we cried in front of our manager, right? But I thought I was the only one who ever cried in front of my manager. So it's probably more common than you think because we're stressed out as fuck. But yeah, I think there are things you can kind of pick up when talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to thank you all as young Asian women for crying in front of your manager. Because right now, like there's so much pressure, you know, like as a young person that like your life is supposed to be easier than everyone else's, like older people or people with kids, like during the pandemic. And then there's like the whole like submissive Asian, you know, you're supposed to be submissive but willing to take unlimited punches. And like as a woman, just like, oh, like if you can't handle a man's job, don't do it. Just marry a rich guy. Like, thank you all.
Can I have both? Okay. A good job.
No, I want to like be able to go to all the places the rich guys go. You know, like I want to go to the nice restaurant that the guy takes the girl to, and like he buys her a salad and like buys himself pizza. I want to buy myself pizza and eat it shamelessly.
That's the dream.
That's a dream. I just
That's
realized
my life.
you're recording.
Let me stop the recording.